Well, it's time for AM Talk, and we're here to make sure that we do the discussions a lot more justice than you'd see on other platforms. But are you into real estate development, and do you sell housing products? Looking for an opportunity to meet your potential customer? Or sign on to the Kumasi edition of the Multi-TV HFC Habitat Fair, which is coming off at the Round Pavilion of the Golden Tulip Hotel on the 27th, and that will be through to the 29th of November 2015. And so make sure you exhibit your housing product and services by contacting the following numbers: 0540106 0540111 or 0427373631. Remember, 2015 Habitat Fair Kumasi is under the theme Affordable Housing and Renewable Energy. Habitat Fair 2015 is brought to you by HFC Bank, Possible Together, Seti Realty. Fair and affordable housing is a basic right for all. Noble Realty. Own a noble property today. Multi-TV, just thrills. And let me just run this by you. This one is very much close to my heart because I'm proud of being a trendsetter. I help students change for the better. I train a youth football team in my neighborhood. And what makes you stand out? What are you doing to make a difference in your community? The Hero Mobile is touring Ghana. DW and Joy News are looking for local heroes just like you and myself. I'm a hero, and so catch the Hero Mobile crew as we come to your neighborhood. We will be in the following areas as follows. On the 23rd of October 2015, we'll be at Teshi Blow live with Screwface at the Methodist Park. On the 24th of October, live with Gasmila at Labadi La Nativity Presby School. And so make sure you come rock with these artists: VVIP, Gasmila, Screwface, Korkesi. Come and share your story and let us celebrate you. The Hero Mobile is brought to you by Joy News and DW, Global Heights for local heroes. My guest for this morning is Benjamin Kofiaye. He's a member of parliament for Upper Dinchro West. Thanks for joining me.
You're welcome.
Okay, he's also a member of the MPP though, but talking about the MPP is a subject of what they've been raising about the voters register, and seem to have caught the eye and the attention of the Institute of Economic Affairs. And apparently they had written to all the political parties as well as the rest of civil society that they wanted to convene a debate on the contentious issues pertaining to Ghana's voters register. We know that the Electoral Commission has collated or collected proposals from the various political parties and also the rest of civil society about the concerns they have of about the voters register, and the IEA now wants to put together a debate. But the NDC is having none of it, and it has put together a press statement that has also been released to the press, and it says it has decided to stay away from a debate being organized by the IEA on Ghana's voters register. And they said they are unable to participate because the Electoral Commission 1 is the body mandated to deal with these issues relating to election matters. It is also surprising that they think the IEA is organizing this debate after it was part of a decision that was taken by the Ghana Political Parties Program, the GPPP, that the EC should be in charge of this very matter. And they also enumerate other issues as well. Ben, let me ask you about this.
Yeah, ask me about.
What do you make of the NDC's own retort as far as the proposal by the IEA for them to be participating in a debate on the voters register?
Well, thank you, Ronald, and let me extend my greetings to your viewers. It would have been better if an NDC person had been here to perhaps throw more light on their stand, because as it stands now, I do not really understand what they have to hide, why, or the basis upon which they don't want to attend this forum being organized by the IEA. Though they've stated a couple of points there, it doesn't really come across very well. You see, if you say EC is the only body mandated to organize elections, therefore they should handle all election-related issues. We've been having these presidential debates all these years around, and I'm sure that also is part of, election or electoral issues. So how come NDC more or less have been participating in all these debates, and then come this one and they feel that is not necessary? just because EC also has an intention to call a similar forum. It does not take anything away from any of the political parties participating in the forum being organized by IEA, and perhaps on the 29th and 30th also attending the EC's one also to make your case. You see, it looks like NDC is more at home doing the radio and the street propaganda rather than where people go and perhaps subject themselves to intelligent debate and questions.
But is it not true that the Electoral Commission has collected from the various political parties, including yours and the NDC as well, and the rest of civil society who are interested, proposals on the subject of the contentious issue of the foreigners and minors, etc., on the voters' register? Why do we need another debate?
Well, to a large extent, I personally do not even understand why EC has to travel this route. You see.
You think collecting a proposal or proposals are necessary?
The subject is, if NPP had just come out and say, no, we need a new voters register, then perhaps you will say, fine, let's call a debate. Let's invite views from other people as to whether the country really needs a new voters register or not. But that's not what we did. We have presented the case to the EC. And I thought what EC should have done was to sit down, go through the petition or whatever we submitted to them to see whether really there's something at stake. If there's something to be addressed as far as our petition was concerned, EC alone could have sat down and then maybe addressed those issues. What were the issues we raised? For example, there was this issue of a difference between the number of people on the voters register as far as the presidential election was concerned vis-a-vis that of the parliamentary one, a difference of about 500,000. If you go to EC's own website, you will see those figures there and the differences there. And then it popped up at the Supreme Court hearing when EC was asked to go and bring evidence of the difference of that 500,000 plus registered voters. They managed to bring just 750. You see, so if a political party points that one out to you that, hey, during the court hearing, you said the difference, that's the 500,000, was as a result of people registered out of this country. However, you managed to bring just 750 or so evidence to support your case. So can you take a look at that? Should that take a forum for people to come and discuss whether to agree that really there's a difference in those numbers or not? Shouldn't it be up to just the EC to perhaps go into their records and then sort that one out? Again, we showed them evidence of people that we suspect are foreigners who have their names on the Togolese voters register and that of Ghana. We've given the evidence to you. At least you can do the comparison from your own end and perhaps even contact your counterparts from Togo to see about the authenticity of perhaps the register MPP submitted. If you get a copy of that register as well and you find those names, then you can unilaterally decide on what to do with those people. You see, should that also take a forum for people to come and debate as to whether really people have their names on both?
But is it not that because you are key stakeholders as political parties, and even though it's your party that has been very much instrumental in raising some of these concerns, the stakeholder community needs to be very much involved? That is why perhaps the proposals collation is important, and also the dialogue thereafter.
Yeah, it is, but I'm looking at the specific issues we have raised as to whether that could be addressed by a forum. That is my beef.
You don't think a forum can address that?
How? That's why I said we should separate the issue of just calling for a new voters register and somebody pointing out some mistakes or some errors in the current register to you and calling your attention to address those issues.
Let me ask you this, Mr. Benaye. Do you think, per the evidence that you have put before the Electoral Commission, and indeed put before the general public,
yeah,
if we do an analysis of the data that we have as far as that is related to our voters register, we'll need to compile a new one?
Definitely. Because the numbers are so significant. Don't forget, we are in a country where...
Can you help me do the interpretations then, if you claim that they are numbers?
Yes. For example, I've just told you about this 500,000. Actually, it was about 530,000 difference. and then they managed to bring just 750 evidence. You see, so the remaining 500, and let's take it to be even just 500,000. That can make a difference. Don't forget 2008 runoff. The difference was just about 49,000. It was less than 50,000.
You mean
so the presidential runoff? You see,
the former president won by that, by those margins.
The former president, you're referring to President Mills, or
yes?
Yes. No, the first round.
He won the second round by those margins, you say?
Yes.
Before time?
Yes. You see, so if somebody go into an election, if somebody starts with about 500,000 votes in his pocket, he can definitely make a difference. You see. And then these other foreigners that we've identified on the voters register.
That for which you've only compiled 10%, and
just 10%.
They are in excess of 70,000.
Yes. If just 10% is giving us over 70,000 plus foreigners on our register, who knows what will happen if we,
but you can't make those conclusions, can you? That because you have only been able to analyze 10% of whatever data there are, as far as making the comparison between Ghana and the Republic of Togo, and you've gotten about 70,000 in excess, doesn't make you, that doesn't give you the audacity to make those conclusions that the rest of the 90% of the analysis you make could also presumably.
Granted, yes, that's just an assumption. Granted that even if we go the 400% and it still gives us 70,000 plus.
Gives you nothing at all.
Yeah, that is nothing extra. You see.
You are saying
and we are to deal with just the 70. Yeah, that is significant enough. Especially when I've given you, especially when I've given you an instance where somebody won an election here in this country by just about 40,000 plus. Especially when it comes to the MPs. We have situations where people win their seats with just 3 votes margin or 1 or 2 votes margin. So those are huge numbers when it comes to such places. And then we've cited an example of this, what do we call it, the National Health Insurance Card issue that went to court, and the Supreme Court ruled that that cannot be a basis to determine whether one is a Ghanaian or not. Meanwhile, per the current register, a lot of people have had their names onto the register using this ID card. So going forward, imagine somebody was not a Ghanaian but managed to register because at the time it was legal. Going forward, do we still go on? Do we carry on with this register that has names of people who perhaps are not Ghanaians? Or what do we do? And if
you're going to vote, what are the identities that you need to have?
Your voter's ID card. Okay. Once you have your name on the register.
All right, then let me rephrase it. If you're going to register, what do you need as far your form of identification?
Previously, the national ID, the National Health Insurance Card was one of those.
That's been removed.
Exactly.
Okay, so
now you may go with a passport or any other document.
Which
are? Maybe your birth certificate, or 2 other people can also identify you. If they can identify you as being a Ghanaian, they stand in as witnesses, and then that is where your
You can't use your old voters register to re-register.
I don't think it will be allowed. I don't think it should be allowed, especially when we've realized that a number of those cars, people got those cars using, yes, you see. So that also gives us cause to have a look at who has his name on the register. And I think we also raised a couple of other issues. And that is why I think
for minors and things like that.
For minors and what have you. After all, for the minors, even EC themselves came out. For example, themselves came out to complain about minors having their names on the register. You see. And then just recently too, we've had even Ghanaians themselves having their names appearing in about 2, 3, 4 different polling stations, though we were made to believe that per the machines, biometric machines that were used, nobody could have his names registered at 2 different places. But we realized that didn't work. To some of us, even though I'm not an IT expert, it appears the machines were not connected to each other. Maybe at best.
Indeed, they were not.
Exactly. Exactly. And it is still not.
The data and the network is very independent of each other.
Yes. So that made it possible for people to register across the country. And these are sort of things we complain about. And I don't think it should take a forum. Because if EC itself is really serious, They can go through this and...
Can't you, by the various statutes or law or regulations that we have, which have been written or laid down for you to expunge or contest identities of individuals before they register, go on that very trajectory and make sure you expunge those names? Do you have to make an argument for a new register?
Well, that would be extremely difficult.
How?
But in any case, why should that even be?
Which one is more difficult?
I mean, going through the legal processes to expunge names from the register.
Why? Why is that difficult?
For example, if you claim I'm a Ghanaian or I'm not a Ghanaian and you take the issue to court, we all know. For example, even if we are to limit ourselves to the 76,000 names that we found out, if we go to court of these 76,000 cases, you know the number of months perhaps it will take before these cases.
Well, that may always not be true, can it?
Well, and it could be true as well. So why do we have to take?
If you have a number of IT experts or whoever they are,
yeah,
enough.
No, we're talking about the court. The court. Don't forget even the.
Well, the court can always solicit some level of external assistance. Right?
Yes, they can.
We saw it in the election petition.
And that took about 8 months. That took about 8 months, where it involved just 2 persons. Now you're going to be dealing with about 76,000 people, and you can just imagine what will happen. You see. So some of us believe the easiest way or the best way out is just to have a fresh register. In any case, what has anybody to lose if we compile a new register, credible register, that at the end of the day, everybody feels comfortable going into an election with?
Well, in reply to some of these concerns that they have with the IEA's call for a debate, is also the fact that, well, the issues of minors could also crop up again if the chance is given for re-registration.
You see, that argument, as far as I'm concerned, is naive. It's just like somebody also getting up and saying, hey, there's no need for further recruitment of police because whether we recruit new policemen or not. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to explain. That somebody can then say that there's no need to recruit more policemen because whether we recruit or not, armed robbery and thievery continues to go on. People are still stealing anyway. So what's the point in recruiting new policemen? You see. So if somebody makes that argument that what is the point in compiling a new register just because minors can still register, then I don't get their point. The fact there will always be miscreants within the system. That is why we have law enforcement agencies there. It is better to compile a new register, making sure that minors do not register this time around, than to compromise and say, oh, fine, even if, or like the Sidin Ketia was saying, though, yes, we agree we've had minors on the register. At the time they were registered, maybe they were 14, 15, 16, so now they are 18, so let's allow them to stay on. Then, this time around, too, people would then come and say, okay, fine, then we are also going to register maybe 10-year-olds because by 8 years' time, they would have also matured. That is not good enough. You see, if the law says that minors should not register, that's all.
But you had polling agents at the time when these registrations were being undertaken.
You see, this issue of minors is not just about MPP or NDC.
Well, sure. We all agree that
what we are all talking about.
It permeates both sides of the political.
Exactly. And I don't think minors...
So if we all agree that it permeates both sides of the political divide, at what point do we have to say...
So we have found that to be an error or a mistake that occurred during that time. Should we therefore say that, okay, fine, there will still be mistakes anyway, so we shouldn't do anything about it? Is that what we are saying? We are saying, no, we need a credible register. This time around, going forward, let's all make sure that minors do not have their names on the register. That's all. Okay.
So now, following that, the Electoral Commission says the 29th of October, we would want to meet all of you, the political parties, and also the rest of civil society that have put together or put forward the proposals to them. After that, you still be making a lot more of your agitations known?
What are they actually going to do with that form? Yes, I'm sure MPP will be there, other people will be there.
Perhaps you're
is it just going to be a debate as to whether...
preempting. You are preempting what they would want to do.
I'm not. That's what I'm trying to find out. I'm wondering.
Your party seems not to trust the Electoral Commission.
Well, they've not given us cause to trust them.
What have they done?
Especially when we also have, for example, with all these years' experience, who could not define before
well, the
the
electoral
judges
commission
even...
says they are turning on a new leaf.
They are.
Well, that's what they say.
Well, I don't know whether the presence of the new commissioner, the new chairperson can make that difference. But so far, their system looks so compromised that it becomes very difficult to trust them 100%.
Okay. Now, once we move the argument, I would want to ask you this very last question. If we don't have a new voters register compiled, what would the NPP do?
Why should we not have a new voters register compiled?
If we don't have it.
Why not?
No, if we don't have it.
Well,
don't give me a why not.
That decision will be taken by the leadership of the party.
Okay.
But I believe a new register will help everybody.
When we get to the bridge, we'll cross it.
Exactly.
All right. All right. The president has been speaking a lot. Over the weekend, I believe, or is it just very recently, you were speaking in Kumasi, I believe, saying that we have to pay more for power.
You see, I listened to portions of the president's statement.
You did?
Portions of them.
What do you make
Not the live one, and especially where he said, I think we have to pay. Then I asked myself...
Well, somebody said he was being realistic.
Is he part of those people who made the payment? He does not pay utility bills. So if he says, that is on the lighter side anyway, if he says we have to pay, he does not pay utility bills. So he should have told the people, you have to pay more, and not we.
But that's not fair to the president.
He does not. I mean, there's nothing wrong with him being the president and being exempted from these payments. There's nothing wrong with that, you see. But I believe perhaps he would have sung a different song if he were actually paying utility bills himself. You see, the president wants the masses or the people to carry his incompetence. You see, because what has brought this burden onto us? Just last year, you slapped over 80% increment, and the people just swallowed it. Granted that you claim you've brought inflation down to 17.5% or whatever, you increase worker salaries also by 10%. So why the over 100% increment? After the people have paid 80% last year, if anything at all, the margin of increase perhaps should have matched the inflationary increases. In this case, the 17.5%.
So your argument is...
So why is the president asking for, or president and his people asking for over 100% increment when you have also increased the workers' salaries by just about 10%?
Well, it's
so
not,
where
it's not
are they going to get the money
economy is
from?
not doing too well.
Is it my business to do that? You see, the two major variables that goes into the determination of these utility bills are the forest issues, the foreign exchange issues, you see, and then, of course, inflation. If the president and his economic management team, if they are not able to manage this economy very well, and you see your currency depreciating, for which reason whatever was raised for this ECG and VRA to import their inputs, the value of whatever was given to them has been devalued because of your incompetence, because of the way you've managed the rate of our currency. Do we have to suffer for it? Or you rather have to improve on how you manage our economy? But for the depreciation of the cedi, perhaps this 100% increment would not have arisen. You see, imagine the cedi had been stable.
Well, now
they wouldn't have been.
Well, Mr. Ayed, now the cedi is not stable.
So he's passing his incompetence on to us. That is why we have to say no.
At the end of the day,
that's why we have to say
granted, the NDC-led administration, led by John Dramani Mahama, is incompetent. They are not managing adequately.
Yes.
But still, we have to deal with the issues. We have to pay realistic tariffs.
No.
Because the
realistic tariff means what?
Because the variables...
That you should be paying for somebody's incompetence. Is that what we call realistic prices?
Well, Ghanaians would decide that by 2016.
We would decide by refusing to pay this one they are asking for.
Why would you refuse? On what basis?
Because we are saying, no, we don't have to pay for somebody's incompetence. We don't have to do that. That is why the average person down there, you see, the president thinks the easiest way to raise money to resolve these issues is to go to the consumers, forgetting that the consumers also have a limit as to how far they can go. Have you increased their salaries by that much? If you haven't increased their salaries by that margin, where are they going to get the difference from? These are some of the things that lead to corruption, because the person will have to pay his school fees, he will have to pay the water bills, he will have to pay, imagine his salary is increased by 10%, and all these things are increased beyond 10%, how would that person bridge that gap? The person may end up looking for money from wherever sources to make up for the difference. You see, that is what is making the fight against corruption equally difficult for all of us in this country. You see, because we only look at collecting taxes, collecting this from the people without thinking about where do they get the resources to pay those things. If at the end of the day, the people are going to steal government money to pay for this and then pay for their utility bills.
You are in Parliament. You do a lot more constant interaction with the powers that be, so to speak. Perhaps ministers come to the floor. If you have concerns, you tend to relay some of those concerns to them and things like that.
Yeah.
Do you think that government has been sincere to the Ghanaian people?
Not at all.
In what regard?
In all regards. To begin with, let me go back to their own manifestos. You look at their manifesto promises and they've not been able to, keep faith with their own promises. And since then, to present, they've been going around making all kinds of promises that they are not able to fulfill. Look at the school, this new secondary school things they're talking about.
Well, they just inaugurated a couple.
2.
Okay.
Two
that's
out
not
of
a couple.
200.
That's not. It should be more than 2.
Yes, especially when you are in your 3rd year.
But we have 123, they say, being built.
That is what they claim. That's what they claim. Meanwhile, these things were supposed to have been in place for before the beginning of this academic year. Yet they could not deliver. They came into office promising they are going to clean this city within the first 100 days, this country within the first 100 days. Yet under their regime, we are recording the highest figures for what we call cholera outbreaks. You see, so they've actually not been sincere. You can go from sector to sector, and you cannot point out one sector that is on top of their issues or on top of their job as we speak now. Every sector is complaining.
Well, when you talk to the president, he says that they've built thousands of cheap compounds or hundreds of cheap compounds. They've built many schools, been able to remove...
It's easier said than done. That's all they've been doing. They will come to Accra and tell you, oh, go to the other place and see what we've done over there. They'll go to that same place and they tell you, come to Accra.
Have you been able to go to some of those areas that they have referred to?
And, if really all those things...
And you have gone to witness the contrary?
If they've done all those things they claim to have done, I'm not sure Ghanaians would have been complaining. I'm not sure they would have been fighting over voters register, because they would then have gone to bed saying that based on the job we've done, we can win these elections hands down.
Well, somebody will say it's only the MPP that's complaining, not the majority of Ghanaians.
Are you sure? Maybe you can send your people out there on the streets, and that can, maybe because I am an MPP man, you might think I am being biased. You can send your media guys out there and
even speak to the neutrals.
Exactly. And that can give you a fair representation of how people are feeling out there.
So the increment will be resisted?
People must resist it.
People must
Otherwise, they will always take Ghanaians for granted. It is only in Ghana that you can increase utility bills by 80%, 100%, and people absorb it and go to bed quietly.
Okay.
They're taking us for granted.
As a political party, will you convene a demonstration?
That will be the decision of
the National Executive. All right.